We did see a number of chip names go down, Pat, on the back of your report. Investors not excited about the forecast for the current quarter, but you're sticking to your forecast for the year. And I'm curious what gives you that sense of optimism about the second half of the year, given what you're seeing now.
Yeah, and Q2 a little bit softer. Obviously, some of the China issues, inventory correction, a little bit of weakness in the consumer and low-end space of the marketplace. But as we look forward to the second half of the year, we see continued strength and growth in our data center business, our network and edge business, very strong first quarter, and we just see that growing throughout the year. We also have our new growth businesses and accelerated computing and graphics, the new area of foundry and Mobileye. All of those had very good quarters, and we forecast growth, very strong growth for all of those as we go into the second half. And in the PC business, after the inventory correction is done, we expect in Q2, we expect a stronger second half. We have a lot of visibility into where our OEM inventory levels is. And we're also seeing that the strength of our product line, our Alder Lake products, ramping ahead of schedule. The Raptor Lake products already being broadly sampled into the industry. And the second half of the year will be highlighted by a commercial refresh. We're way overdue on the commercial segment for a refresh. And, with people coming back into the workplace, we see very strong outlook for the commercial portion where our market share and our pricing is stronger. So overall, we're very confident, reaffirm the second half of the year and the overall numbers. So we're feeling very good about the business and the execution in Q1 with a modest beat. Despite all the turbulence, just reinforces our confidence that the execution machine at Intel is rebuilding, and we have confidence in the rest of the year.
Now, I spoke to Apple CEO Tim Cook yesterday, who said, they're still seeing supply issues, and they're really almost exclusively related to chips that impacted several of their products. They also said on the call that supply issues could dent sales as much as $8 billion, in part due to these continuing COVID lockdowns in China. You said the shortage will last longer than even you thought. How much longer, and what more color can you give us?
Yeah, and I think there's two different questions there, Emily. One is some of these near-term lockdowns, and we're starting to see the port open up. We're getting some positive news there from China in that regard, which is, particularly challenging for all of the PC OEMs and Apple. A lot of business going through there, and a fair amount of our business as well. Overall, though, the big story is around building up the semiconductor capacity. And we had felt like 23, we'd start to see that equilibrium. Now, in no small part because of some of the equipment shortages, the equipment that goes into the fabs that we're building, we're seeing those lead times push out substantially. And as a result, we expect the overall semiconductor shortage to not be resolved until 2024 now, as some of those capacities come online. That said, we feel like we're better positioned than most. The combination of our internal capacity as well as our leverage of foundries, we're just better positioned, and that's part of the structural advantage that Intel has. And our execution machine is performing well. We're working very closely with the equipment vendors to make sure that all of these major new factories we're building are smart capital, that we build the shells and then we fill them with capacity as the demand signals emerge, that we're on track, and we feel like, we'll do better than the rest of the industry in our supply requirements.
Now, I know you're still bullish on the PC market, and I'm so curious what makes you think it's going to remain strong as we come out of the pandemic, given that we're facing inflation and ongoing war, rising gas prices, and more pressure on consumers than we've seen in a really long time.
Yeah, I think there's a variety of things there. And the range of the PC market outlooks was pretty wide, and now it's quite narrow. All of the analysts, all of the OEMs, and I think Satya reaffirmed this on his on the Microsoft earnings call this week. It's a structurally larger market now, and refresh rates, the essential role that it plays in work, learn, and play. We just see the PC market as a larger market, and as I've already emphasized, we're way overdue on a commercial refresh. Windows 11, key new products like Alder Lake and Raptor Lake from Intel. And I'd say that 350 million-ish, about 1 million PCs a day, everybody's in a pretty tight range around that. And I'd say finally, we just have better visibility. We know our product builds, many of the other components like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth are made by Intel. Now our position in graphics is very strong as well. So all of these taken together, we have great insight into what that looks like. A alignment with our customers, our OEMs, as well as the other ecosystem partners. So we feel very good that it's, about flat market year on year. And we're confident that we're going to be able to execute, gain share in that market as we did the last quarters of last year. So overall, we feel good about our business outlook there.
Now, you have been leading the charge on getting governments to commit to help in bringing chip production back to the United States, whether it's governments in Europe, governments, President Biden, you're meeting with President Biden here in the United States. How confident are you that these governments, these politicians, are going to deliver?
And, overall, we just passed the milestone literally yesterday. The Senate and House now have agreed on the conference process, and that was agreed upon by Schumer and McConnell just yesterday on the Senate side of that. So the conference process is getting underway in the U.S. We're driving that we get this done by May. The bill is now very pregnant, and it has good bipartisan and bicameral support. So we're confident that that will happen. But trust me, I am pushing every political leader that I can to get this done. It is the right thing for the nation. And even, like we heard from some of the car manufacturers, just the continued chip shortage, how it's hurting their business. This is hurting the core of our recovery. We need to get this fixed. We've seen great momentum in Europe as well. And despite the potential to be preoccupied with the war, unquestionably, the political leaders there are moving rapidly, and we're actually quite enthusiastic. We did our big announcement around our European build-outs, that we're doing in Ireland, in France, and the big deal for our Silicon Junction that we're launching in Magdeburg, Germany. So overall, we're seeing good response from these leaders, and that's an important part of our smart capital strategy as well, of how we're able to offset some of these massive capital investments and really reshoring fab capacity, something more important than where oil reserves are for the next several decades. Let's build the fabs where we want them in U.S. and in Europe.
Pat, good morning. As you say, this is a huge undertaking. Good morning, it's Guy. I'm wondering what the potential bottlenecks around some of this could be. The U.S. labor market is incredibly tight. You are a capital-heavy industry, but nevertheless, you've got to build this stuff in order to be able to manufacture the chips. What are you seeing in terms of the limitations around it? What are you seeing in terms of the labor market? How much are you having to pay? How much are you having to pay the people that are going to be building some of these fabs as well?
Yeah, and I'd say clearly, Guy, we've seen a bit of inflationary pressure in labor costs, construction costs, material costs coming into those. And, that will be a bit of an upward pressure. And overall, some of that's getting passed through. We've raised prices somewhat. Some of that will pass through as well. But the labor shortage challenges is one that we're being aggressively invested in. And, what we've seen is, and particularly in the Silicon Heartland, we've seen this in Arizona, the Ohio and Germany build-outs, there is such dramatic enthusiasm on the part of the universities, the local constructions, to bring the modern, high-tech manufacturing center around silicon to those regions. So I'm very enthusiastic that overall there's a shortage, but people are excited about what we're doing. And we're seeing university presidents, labor union leaders, all just stepping into this because they want to be part of the digital future of their continents. So I think we're going to do better than most as we navigate those challenges.
Pat, is Intel in a leadership position again? That's the objective of all of this, to put this business back out in front. Are you back out in front yet? And if not, how long will it take you?
Yeah, and if you look across our 6 business areas and our process technology area, for client, we're back in a leadership position. Alder Lake, the best. Sapphire Rapids, just getting into the marketplace, puts us back into leadership. Network and Edge, unquestionably the leader. Everybody building a modern edge architecture is doing it with Intel. Accelerated computing, going to take a while. NVIDIA has a great leadership position. It's going to take us a while to be, but we're now in the game. Areas like Mobileye, unquestioned leadership in ADAS and a lot of momentum there. Foundry, as I said, it's going to take us a number of years, and our goal is to be number 2 by the end of the decade in the foundry business. The process technology, though, Guy, is probably the one that everybody looks at most closely. And as I've laid out, 5 nodes, 4 years, we're on or ahead of schedule on all of those. And we've said 25, we'd be unquestioned leadership. I now think we're positioned that that's probably late 24 when we're back in the unquestioned leadership in the most important aspect, the core transistor and semiconductor technology. We're executing extremely well since I've been back, and really proud of our teams in that area.
Pat, if we could just go back, and this is Kaylee in New York, to the conversation around some of the higher input costs like labor, which you were just discussing. I know you said you are passing some of those costs on to the end consumer. You're still targeting gross margins in the 51 to 53% range. How much downside risk is there to that view given upward price pressures?
You know, we said 2 things there, Kaylee. One is these are guardrails. This is how I'm going to manage the business, and I have a lot of levers to meet the guardrails. And as I say, we're a say-do culture, and if we say it, we're going to get it done as well, and I have a lot of levers to get it done. You know, that said, as we go into the second half of the year, we've already comprehended the new depreciation costs of our 10 nanometer facilities. We've already invested in the engineering build out. We have better products that are ramping that will give us better margins and better price points for that as our competitive position improves overall. So we're going to make the investments necessary to get us back in the unquestioned leadership, just like Guy was asking, and we're going to manage the business to the guardrails that we've set for the market to overall. So we're on track. We're setting ourselves up to have a great second half of the year, and really confident in our ability to execute and meet the overall guidelines that we've set to the market.
Pat, I know you're working hard to restore a torrid pace of innovation back at Intel, and I want to hone in specifically on the advancements you're hoping to make in 7 and 10 nanometer chips. Do you think that will help you take market share from AMD, and how much market share specifically?
Yeah, overall, and if you look at like the PC market, analysts have indicated that we gained share in Q3 and in Q4. Obviously, they haven't given their numbers yet for Q1, but we feel very good about our position to regain share in those markets. And a lot of that comes in the back of the 10 nanometer and now the 7 nanometer ramp products. In the data center area, we're growing. We're not growing quite as fast as the market yet because some of the new competitive products are just starting to really come into the marketplace, such as with Sapphire Rapids. And as I've indicated, that's going to be a more competitive fight. And as I said, other areas like our networking and edge business, the Mobileye business, those areas were just unquestioned leadership. So overall, it's going to be a very competitive market. And the build out of our manufacturing capacity, I've sort of said, Emily, that we didn't lose market share, we gave it away. Without enough capacity to satisfy a growing market. And now as we're just getting our nose above water to be able to be a little bit ahead of our customers' demands, now we can start to really focus upon rebuilding that share position that we have in the marketplace. And that's exactly what you'll see us do.